Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. The Arizona Cardinals have fired Kliff Kingsbury after a 4-13 season with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to go over the Cardinals' decision to fire Kliff Kingsbury and whether I think they should have fired him now or whether they should have given him more time. Now, Kliff Kingsbury, he was the Arizona Cardinals head coach for 4 seasons, and he had an up and down stint there. But in college, he was well known for his team's offensive performances, and that is why a lot of people thought Kliff Kingsbury might have had a shot in the NFL. It was a chance that the Arizona Cardinals took, but at the end of the day, it ended up not working out. But if you look at Kliff Kingsbury's record, while he was the head coach of his alma mater, where he used to play quarterback for in the Texas Tech Red Raiders, in his first season as the head coach, they went 8-5 and 4-5, and they won the Holiday Bowl in 2013. And then in 2014, he went 4-8 and 2-7 in the Big 12, and that was a bad season. And then in 2015, he went 7-6 and 4-5, and they lost in the Texas Bowl. Then in 2016, they went 5-7 and 3-6, and they missed another bowl game. Then in 2017, Texas Tech went 6-7 and 3-6 in the Big 12, and they lost in the Birmingham Bowl. And then in 2018, Texas Tech went 5-7 and 3-6 in the Big 12, and they missed another bowl game. And you got to imagine that while he was at Texas Tech, that their offenses were fantastic. You even had Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback during the time he was there. And Kliff Kingsbury, he still could not get over 8 wins, which was in his first season as the head coach. And the rest of his seasons, he went 500. And the reason why is you look at these stats. While he was the head coach at Texas Tech, his offenses were always really good except for the 2014 year where it was average. 23rd, 55th, 2nd, 5th, 23rd, and 16th. Where his scoring offenses from 2013 to 2018. And his scoring defense was 88th, 126th, 125th, 128th, 98th, and 87th. And all of his scoring defenses were poor, and that's why Texas Tech could not get over the hump. So after the 2018 season, Kliff Kingsbury basically got fired, and he did not have a job anymore with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So he started interviewing for NFL jobs, the New York Jets. He did an interview with them, and then the Arizona Cardinals did an interview with him, which he ended up getting the Arizona Cardinals job. And a lot of people thought that they were just taking a chance on Kliff Kingsbury, just like the Los Angeles Rams did with Sean McVay, taking a young coach with a great mind, and in Kliff Kingsbury's instance, a great offensive-minded head coach, but he could not coach defense. But in the NFL, with a lot more talent, maybe Kliff Kingsbury's deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball would be able to be overcome because you'd have a lot of talent on the defense and you have a defensive coordinator that knows what he's doing coaching that side of the ball. So maybe the Arizona Cardinals made the right decision to hire Kliff Kingsbury so the Arizona Cardinals could get a lot of wins. And in 2019, he drafted Kyler Murray first overall, and a lot of people knew that that was going to be a tough task because, for one, Kyler Murray, he is an undersized quarterback, and that is not the be-all and end-all of whether a quarterback has success in the NFL or not. But Kyler Murray is an extremely short quarterback. But a lot of people thought that maybe with Kyler Murray, that Kliff Kingsbury would be able to have such a great offense on the Arizona Cardinals, so much running, so much passing, and then with a really solid defense, if you get a good defensive coordinator, that they get a lot of wins. But in 2019, it did not work out too well. They went 5-10-1, and that was not a bad problem because it was the first season of his tenure. It was Kyler Murray's first season in the NFL. A lot of people were not really expecting much more. And in 2020, you did see improvement, and they went 8-8. They went 500, and they missed the playoffs. But there was improvement from Kyler Murray, and their offense improved overall, and there were signs that maybe the Arizona Cardinals were trending in the right direction. And then in his third season, Kliff Kingsbury in 2021, they went 11-6, and they made the playoffs, and unfortunately they lost to the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card game. But Kyler Murray had the best season that he's had at the Arizona Cardinals. The offense for the Cardinals was humming. Kliff Kingsbury looked like, again, that maybe the Cardinals made a great decision, that them taking a chance on him was going to end up paying off. But then in his final season with the Arizona Cardinals in 2022, they went 4-13, and the Arizona Cardinals decided to fire him. I think that this past season, Kyler Murray, he had some injury problems. Again, that's what happens when you're small and you run around a lot. Eventually, you're going to get hurt. And the Arizona Cardinals had a lot of injuries overall as a team. So I wouldn't say all of it was on Kliff Kingsbury, but he was not able to right the ship, and the Cardinals went 4-13. And if you go season by season with the Arizona Cardinals stats in 2019, if you look at their total stats, the defense gave up 6,432 yards for the Arizona Cardinals, and the offense put up 5,467 yards. And that was not very good in Kliff Kingsbury's first season. But then in 2020, You go down, you look at the stats, and 6,153 offensive yards and 5,631 defensive yards. So you see the offense improved and the defense improved as well. They didn't give up as many yards and they put up more yards. And again, that was akin to Kyler Murray playing better. And their defense was better and they were improved on both sides of the ball. And that's why they went 8-8 that season. And then in 2021, the year they had the breakout where they went 11-6, they had 6,352 offensive yards and 5,597 defensive yards. That was an even better improvement. And the Arizona Cardinals were able to win a lot more games because their defense was doing just enough to get stops and their offense was humming and playing great football. And then in 2022, this past season where they regressed and went 4-13, their offensive yards 5,499 and their defensive yards 5,931. Very reminiscent of the first season that they went 5-10-1 under Kliff Kingsbury, and that is definitely why they struggled this season. And if you look at Kyler Murray's stats since he's been with the Arizona Cardinals in his first season in the NFL, he was 349 for 542 for 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions and 3,722 yards, and he ran for 544 yards and 4 touchdowns. In 2020, he was 375 for 558 for 3,971 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he had 819 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. In 2021, he was 333 of 481 for 3,787 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and he had 423 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. So he took a step back on not running as much, probably to prevent injury, but his completion percentage went up, and he had a great season overall, not throwing as many picks. And then in 2022, he was 259 of 390 for 2,368 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and 418 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. And again, his numbers aren't as high because he missed a lot of the season due to injury. That definitely contributed to the 4-13 season they had this year. So the big question is, should the Arizona Cardinals have fired Kliff Kingsbury or should they have given him another year? Now, the interesting thing about his tenure at the Arizona Cardinals is you look at the seasons that they had success. The year Kyler Murray statistically had his best season was in 2020, the year they went 8-8. But the year that they had the best overall season was in 2021. Kyler Murray still had a good season as well, but their defense played better. And obviously, as a head coach, it is your control of who is the coordinator on the defensive side of the ball. And the Arizona Cardinals defense regressed in 2022. Now, part of that was because the Arizona offense was not as good due to injury to Kyler Murray and other problems. And that is why it is tough to stop teams when you're having to get back on the field quicker. But overall, even when Kliff Kingsbury's teams have had better defenses, they still have not been one of the best defenses in the NFL. And it's really taken the Arizona Cardinals to win a lot of games in shootouts with Kyler Murray putting up a ridiculous amount of yards and points. So at the end of the day, I think the Arizona Cardinals really saw the writing on the wall that even if Kyler Murray got healthy next year and they had a much better offensive year, the Arizona Cardinals defense probably would not have been that great. And the one year that the Cardinals made the playoffs in that 2021 season when they went 11-6, they lost in the wild card game. I think the Arizona Cardinals see that they have a ceiling with Kliff Kingsbury, and they feel that the 2021 season, that was the highest Kliff Kingsbury could reach. Now, obviously, we can't prove that. We don't know what Kliff Kingsbury would have done if he was given more time. Maybe he could have taken them further, but I think the Arizona Cardinals administration believes that Kliff Kingsbury cannot give the Arizona Cardinals any more than he's already done. They're not going to be able to improve any more than they did in that 2021 season, and even if he could, it would take a long time, and they don't want to wait for it. They want improvement on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of coaches, even if they're not offensive minds, they can put up a lot of points and yards if you get a good offensive coordinator, and the Cardinals already have some good players on offense. Whether they get rid of Kyler Murray or they keep him, that's a whole other story, but I do think that the Arizona Cardinals potentially made the right decision to fire Kliff Kingsbury right now. I would have said maybe at the most give Kliff Kingsbury one more year, but at the end of the day, again, the writing was kind of on the wall. It just kind of seems like Kliff Kingsbury was not going to be able to win much more at the Arizona Cardinals. They're really struggling right now overall, and even though injuries to Kyler Murray and a lot of the team really derailed this past season, even in their better seasons, the defense was still poor, and their offense had to put up a lot of points to win. And I think the Arizona Cardinals want more on both sides of the ball, and hopefully they can get that in their next head coach so the Arizona Cardinals can win more. But I think the Arizona Cardinals potentially made the right move to fire Kliff Kingsbury, because if they didn't fire him now, they were probably going to have to eventually fire him anyway. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about the decision by the Arizona Cardinals to fire Kliff Kingsbury, or whether you think he should have been given more time. And I will see you next time.